Against the woman's boundless heart arose the almighty cry of universal death. Hast thou got wings or feet that tread my star? Frail creature with the courage that aspires, forgetting thy bounds of thought, thy mortal role, I will take from thee the black eternal grip, clasping in thy heart thy fate's exiguous doles. Depart in peace, if peace for man is just.
So we've come, let's see, now to page 587. 12 lines up from the bottom into his fragile, undefended breast. We're on page 587. So 12 lines up from the bottom. Savitri is following the god Death, who's taking the soul of Satyavan into his realm of darkness. Savitri is pursuing. They are in dialogue. Just now, the god Death is telling of the vanity of human life, its transience, its return of suffering and death for all its attempts at life and love and happiness. And he mocks this aspiration of man towards the divine, looking up to God and to heaven for relief from this suffering and this death. Death argues that the void is the eternal truth to which all things, all beings in the end return. He says, just towards the bottom of 586, a fragile miracle of thinking clay, armed with illusions, walks the child of time. To fill the void around he feels and dreads, the void he came from and to which he goes. He magnifies his self and names it God. He calls the heavens to help his suffering hopes. He sees above him with a longing heart bare spaces more unconscious than himself, that have not even his privilege of mind, and empty of all but their unreal blue, and peoples them with bright and merciful powers. For the sea roars around him and the earth quakes beneath his steps, and fire is at his doors, and death prowls baying through the woods of life. So he is mocking mankind and Savitri in her attempt to rescue Satyavan from the darkness and the void, and also her illusion of eternal love. So he'll continue his argument as we proceed. So would you like to read? We can maybe start on this side. Would you like to read? 12 lines up from the bottom.
Number 200.
Yeah, into his fragile, undefended breast.
into his fragile and undefended breast, they have breathed a courage that is met by death. They have given a wisdom that is mocked by night. They have traced a journey that foresees no goal. Aimless man toils in an uncertain world, lulled by the inconstant pauses of his pain, scourged like a beast by the infinite desire, bound to the chariot of the dreadful gods. But if thou still canst hope and still wouldst love, return to thy body's shell, thy tie to earth, and with thy heart's little remnants try to live. Hope not to win back to thee, Satyavan.
Continue.
Yet, since thy strength deserves no trivial crown, gifts I can give to soothe thy wounded life. The pacts which transient beings make with fate, and a wayside sweetness earth-bound hearts would pluck. These, if thy will accepts, make freely thine. Choose life's hopes for thy deceiving prize.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So in this first sentence, Death argues that these virtues or powers that human beings have, they're all in the end vain and unsuccessful. He's speaking of what these gods have given, apparently these imaginary gods. They have breathed a courage that is met by death. They have given a wisdom that is mocked by night. They have traced a journey that foresees no goal. He argues that man is toiling, working, striving and struggling in this uncertain world. And he keeps going only because there are sometimes pauses in his struggles and pain. So he's lulled, he's kind of urged to continue. And he's scourged like a beast by the infinite desire. It's as if we're being whipped by this desire for something, whatever, but it keeps us moving like the bullock who is whipped. He keeps moving forward. But then he says to Savitri, still you have been brave and you've come this far into the night, into the darkness of my realm, and still have survived, and still you have hope and love in your heart. He says, return to earth, and I'll give you some boons to help you. But hope not to win back to these Satyavan. He says, gifts I can give to soothe thy wounded life, the pacts which transient beings make with fate, and the wayside sweetness earthbound hearts would pluck. These, if thy will accepts, make freely thine. Choose a life's hopes for thy deceiving prize. So he's offering her some gifts, some happiness, some sweetness, if she returns to life, stops her pursuit of Satyavan. So we can continue. Would you like to read too?
Choose a life's hopes for thy deceiving prize. As says the ruthless and tremendous voice, unendingly there rose in Savitri, like moonlit ridges on a shuddering flood, a stir of thoughts out of some silence born, across the sea of her dumb, fathomless heart. At last she spoke, her voice was heard by night. I bow not to thee, O huge mask of death, black lie of night to the cowed soul of man, unreal, inescapable end of things. Thou grim jest played with the immortal spirit. Conscious of immortality I walk, a victor spirit, conscious of my foes. Not as a suppliant to thy gates I came. Unslain I have survived the clutch of night. My first strong grief moves not my seated mind. My unwept tears have turned to pearls of strength. I have transformed my ill-shaped brittle clay into the hardness of a statued soul. Now, in the wrestling of the splendid gods, my spirit shall be obstinate and strong against the vast refusal of the world.
Thank you. Let's pause. So Savitri answers to death. She's undeterred by his arguments. Whereas he is saying that this love that she holds in her heart and this hope are vain, things unreal. She argues that he is unreal. Black lie of night to the cowed soul of man. Unreal, inescapable end of things. Thou grim jest played with the immortal spirit. So she's arguing the opposite. And then she says, conscious of immortality I walk. Savitri has realized her eternal soul. She lives in that eternity of her soul. So she is unconvinced by his arguments of the transience of all things, the death of all things. She says, a victor spirit conscious of my force. She too is aware that she is an incarnation of the Divine Mother, that she is a force of the Supreme Being. She lives conscious of that. Not as a suppliant to thy gates I came. She's not coming into his realm to ask for favors, to ask even for the soul of Satyavan. She has come there to take him, to overtake death. Whereas earlier, when she was feeling the pain and grief of Satyavan's impending death before he died, she suffered, knowing that his end was coming soon. But no longer she feels that. My first strong grief moves not my seated mind. My unwept tears have turned to pearls of strength. Suggests perhaps to us too that we can turn our suffering into strength. She says, I have transformed my ill-shaped, brittle clay. She's already transformed, changed her being. As she says, into the hardness of a statued soul. Her being now, her nature now is an expression of her soul. And then she says, now in the wrestling of the splendid gods, my spirit shall be obstinate and strong against the vast refusal of the world. So she's ready for her fight with the god of death, and she'll be strong. Okay, we'll continue.
I stoop not with the subject mob of minds, who run to glean with eager satisfied hands, and pick from its mire mid many trampling feet, its scornful small concessions to the weak. Mine is the labor of the battling gods, imposing on the slow, reluctant years the flaming will that reigns beyond the stars. They lay the law of mind on matter's works, and win the soul's wish from earth's inconscient force. First I demand whatever Satyavan, my husband, waking in the forest charm out of his long pure childhood's lonely dreams, desired, and had not for his beautiful life. Give if thou must, or if thou canst, refuse. Death bowed his head in scornful cold assent, the builder of this dreamlike earth for man, who has mocked with vanity all gifts he gave.
Thank you. Let's pause there. I think so. Yeah, it sounds very familiar to me. Hmm. It's okay, we'll continue again. So Savitri argues that she's not like the common lot of human beings who run to glean with eager, satisfied hands and pick from its mire mid many trampling feet its scornful small concessions to the weak. She says, mine is the labor of the battling gods, imposing on the slow, reluctant years the flaming will that reigns beyond the stars. This imposing on the slow, reluctant years, this issue of time and its slowness, kind of a theme that comes up a number of times in Savitri. I remember Aswapati imploring the Divine Mother to descend, and he tells her, linger not long with thy transmuting hand, as if time, dare not give itself to God. That's not the exact quote, but So time, we all wait, for the end of this suffering, for the change of earth, and for the change in our own lives, for the end to our struggles. So she is imposing the divine will on these slow, reluctant years, that it may turn, offer itself, open itself to the force of God. She says this will that reigns beyond the stars, lay the law of mind on matter's works. First, mind comes and imposes its will on matter and the world. So we change and transform our world with the help of mind. But it too, although it can raise matter to a higher level, a greater organization, a greater refinement, in the end it also cannot fully rescue the spirit out of matter, and a greater force beyond the stars is necessary for that work. And that's what Savitri has come to do. To win the soul's wish from earth's inconscient force. Margaret had brought up last time this difference between the cosmic law, which moves slowly, gradually evolves in the course of time. And then there is this transcendent will above the cosmos that can come down and transform, change that cosmic law. And again, that is what Savitri represents, the descent of that transcendent will from above that can change this slow plodding of the reluctant years. So first, she says, I demand whatever Satyavan, waking in the forest charm, out of his long, pure childhood's lonely dreams, desired and had not for his beautiful life. And then she demands, give if thou must, or if thou canst refuse. And Death bowed his head in scornful, cold assent. He has to give. She has this power coming from that transcendent, imposing on him. He is part of that cosmic law. The builder of this dreamlike earth for man, who has mocked with vanity all gifts he gave. He gives all these gifts of life, but then takes away at the end. So we continue. Or did you read? Oh.
Uplifting his disastrous voice, he spoke. Indulgent to the dreams my touch shall break. I yield to thee. I yield to his blind father's longing heart, kingdom and power, and friends and greatness lost, and royal trappings for his peaceful age. The pallid pomps of man's declining days, the silvered, decadent glories of life's fall. To one who wiser grew by adverse fate, goods I restore the denuded soul prefers to impersonal nothingness bare sublime. The sensuous solace of the light I give to eyes which could have found a larger realm, a deeper vision in their fathomless night. For that this man desired and asked in vain, while still he lived on earth and cherished hope. Back from the grandeur of my perilous realms, go, mortal, to thy small permitted sphere. Hasten swift-footed, lest to stay they live. The great laws thou hast violated. Move, open at last on thee their marble eyes.
Thank you. Let's pause. So death gives to Savitri this boon. He will restore to Satyavan's father, King Dumotsena, his sight that he had lost and his kingdom which he had lost. For this, Satyavan had hoped and prayed, but had not been fulfilled. So death offers this. But he also kind of mocks the gift. He says, indulgent to the dreams my touch shall break. He will give these things, but again he will take away these dreams. And then he says, I'll give his sight, but he would have been greater without. To one who wiser grew by adverse fate. Goods I restore, the deluded soul prefers to impersonal nothingnesses bare sublime. The sensuous solace of the light I give to eyes which could have found a larger realm, a deeper vision in their fathomless night. He's suggesting that the king's blindness and the loss of his kingdom were actually better for him, for his soul. That it gave wisdom. He understood better the night, the void to which he will inevitably return and which is the source of all things. He says, I will give these things. Now go back. Go, mortal, to thy small permitted sphere. Hasten, swift-footed, lest to slay thy life the great laws thou hast violated, moved, open at last on thee their marble eyes. So he offers this boon and tells Savitri, now go back. So we continue.
But Savitri answered a disdainful shade, World spirit, I was thy equal spirit born. My will too is a law, my strength a god. I am immortal in my mortality. I tremble not before the immobile gaze of the unchanging marble hierarchies that look with the stone eyes of law and fate. My soul can meet them with its living fire. Out of thy shadow, give me back again into earth's flowering spaces, Satyavan, in the sweet transiency of human limbs, to do with him my spirit's burning will. I will bear with him the ancient mother's load. I will follow with him earth's path that leads to God. Else shall the eternal spaces open to me, while round the strange horizons far recede, traveling together the immense unknown. For I who have trod with him the tracts of time, can meet behind his steps whatever night, or unimaginable suspended dawn, breaks on our spirits in the untrod beyond. Wherever thou leadst his soul, I shall pursue.
Thank you. Let's pause. So again, Savitri declares that she was an equal spirit born, equal to death. My will too is a law, my strength a God. I am immortal in my mortality. This is like the kind of almost definition of the avatar, that she is conscious of her immortality, even in a mortal body. So she is unafraid of his immobile gaze, this fixed gaze of eternal death, of the unchanging marble hierarchies, these fixed laws, the hierarchies of the cosmic worlds that look with the stone eyes of law and fate. So that look is in death's eyes, this kind of fixed, eternal gaze, unchanging. She says, my soul can meet them with its living fire. And again she demands, give me back into earth's flowering spaces, Satyavan, in the sweet transiency of human limbs, to do with him my spirit's burning will. It's beautiful how Sri Aurobindo describes that. Into earth's flowering spaces, this beautiful earth on which we live, and this sweet transiency of human limbs. Also, there's something beautiful about the transiency of life and the physical form. And I will bear with him the ancient mother's load. She's carrying this load of the ancient mother, the load of transforming this difficult earth through the long centuries, its resistance to that change. It's a heavy burden she carries through many lives. He says, I will bear with him the ancient mother's load. I will follow with him earth's path that leads to God. That slow, long, difficult evolution of earth that leads to God. And then she says, else shall the eternal spaces open to me, while round us strange horizons far recede, traveling together the immense unknown. He says, otherwise I will continue traveling through this darkness, through this unknown. I'll travel with him. For I who have trod with him the tracks of time can meet behind his steps whatever night or unimaginable, stupendous dawn breaks on our spirits in the untrod beyond. So whatever it is that she must confront, whether this darkness or the stupendous dawn, she will trod with Satyavan. She will follow in his steps. Wherever thou leadest his soul, I shall pursue. Okay, we continue.
But to her claim opposed, implacable, insisting on the immutable decree, insisting on the immitigable law and the insignificance of created things. Out of the rolling wastes of night they came, born from the enigma of the unknowable depths, a voice of majesty and appalling scorn. As when the storm had Titan striding sea throws on a swimmer its tremendous laugh, remembering all the joys its waves have drowned, so from the darkness of the sovereign night, against the woman's boundless heart arose the almighty cry of universal death. Hast thou got wings or feet that tread my stars? Frail creature with the courage that aspires, forgetting thy bounds of thought, thy mortal role, their orbs were coiled before thy soul was formed. I, death, created them out of my void. All things I have built in them, and I destroy. I made the worlds my net, each joy a mesh, a hunger amorous of its suffering prey, life that devours my image seen in things.
Thank you. Let's pause. Death opposes Savitri's arguments. He insists on the immutable decree, the unchangeable law and order of the universe, of death, insisting on the immitigable law, the law which cannot be changed or appeased, and the insignificance of created things. All that is created must be destroyed, will end. It has no great significance. It's just a flash of light in the darkness. Out of the rolling wastes of night there came, born from the enigma of the unknowable depths, a voice of majesty and appalling scorn. And his voice is compared to the sea that throws on a swimmer its tremendous laugh, remembering all the joy its waves have drowned. The sound of the sea as it swallows up the swimmer in its waves and drowns him. So he says, "Hast thou God wings, or feet that tread my stars? Frail creature with the courage that aspires, forgetting thy bounds of thought, thy mortal role." He's arguing that even these stars that shine in the heavens, he has created these. Can you walk among those stars? I've created those out of my void. All things I have built in them, and I destroy. This whole universe has been born out of this void. All the stars that we see in the sky were created out of that empty blackness in the Big Bang. All those stars were thrown out, and all that lives now is created in them, and all will be swallowed back again into that darkness, that original void. I made the worlds my net, each joy a mesh. We're trapped in that net, all these joys that we feel are little traps that we're caught in. And then eventually we're brought back again into the darkness. A hunger amorous of its suffering prey, life that devours. My image, see in things. His image of life, devouring life. That's what death represents, and that is what he says our life is like. Yeah, it's an eternal desire. This hunger of desire. It keeps us always searching for more. Keeps us moving in this world that is a net. Can never satisfy these hungers. They just continue one after another. We get caught in them. And eventually we die. Oh, continue.
Mortal, whose spirit is my wandering breath, whose transience was imagined by my smile, flee clutching thy poor gains to thy trembling breast. Pierced by my pangs, time shall not soon appease. Blind slave of my deaf force, when I compel to sin, that I may punish, to desire that I may scourge thee with despair and grief, and thou come bleeding to me at last, thy nothingness recognized, my greatness known. Turn nor attempt forbidden happy fields, meant for the souls that can obey my law, lest in their somber shrines thy tread awake from their uneasy iron-hearted sleep, the furies who avenge fulfilled desire. Dread lest in the skies where passion hopes to live, the unknown's lightning start and terrified, lone, sobbing, hunted by the hounds of heaven, a wounded and forsaken soul, thou flee through the long torture of the centuries. Nor many lives exhaust the tireless wrath. Hell cannot slake, nor heaven's mercy assuage. I will take from thee the black eternal grip, clasping in thy heart thy fate's exiguous dole. Depart in peace, if peace for man is just.
Thank you. Pause. Death keeps warning Savitri to return, to stop her pursuit of Satyavan's soul into the darkness. And he keeps telling her that she is no eternal soul. That's an imagination. He says, her spirit is my wandering breath, whose transience was imagined by my smile. And he tells her, flee, clutching thy poor gains to thy trembling breast. Pierced by my pangs, time shall not soon appease. He's warning her of great suffering if she doesn't return quickly. And then he also speaks of his force, which he does, which he imposes on the world. Blind slave of my deaf force, whom I compel to sin, that I may punish, to desire, that I may scourge thee with despair and grief. So he's saying, go back, flee. Recognize thy nothingness. Recognize my greatness. And then he warns her also, if you continue, lest in their somber shrines thy tread awake from their uneasy iron-hearted sleep, the Furies who avenge fulfilled desire. He says you may wake, if you continue, you may wake up these Furies, which are these avenging spirits in Greek mythology, deities, goddesses of vengeance, who tormented criminals and drove them mad and tormented them in hell. In the Greek myths, with snakes in their hair, they were 3 in number, these Furies.
I mean, I have problem with this. When he said, okay, I can give it to Sri Aurobindo, yeah. And how to read this lies from what he's doing here, and this threatening.
It's death-threatening, Savitri.
Yeah. But words have the power, and then when you read it.
Yeah, especially, I think, if your desires are fulfilled. And then he speaks of the hounds of heaven, hunted by the hounds of heaven. And he says that like a wounded and forsaken soul, that thou flee through long torture of the centuries, nor many lives exhaust the timeless wrath. Hell cannot slake, nor heaven's mercy assuage. So she, according to death, is breaking the great eternal laws of fate, of the reality which he has constructed. And for that, she will suffer grievously through many lives. Slake, satisfy. Or no, not, hell cannot slake, let's see. assuage or like that.
The snake, when you have limestone, when you put water, the snake line. So it's basically satisfying the person.
Satisfied.
Your flame cannot be removed by heaven or earth.
So then he says, go back, and I will take from thee the black eternal grip. I'll release that. Clasping in thy hearts thy fate's exiguous dole, this scanty allotment that you're given, you go back to earth with this. Depart in peace, if peace for man is just. Okay, we'll continue. Oh,
now is offering that laws we not give it to her. The last two sentences. Depart in peace, but before that, I will take from thee the black eternal grip. Resting in thy heart of fate's exiguous goal.
Yeah, he's saying, if you go back, if you stop breaking these laws, I will release you from the grip of this torture through the centuries. I will take that back if you go now. I think we need to stop. I'm sorry, Margaret.
But Savitri answered, meeting scorn with scorn. The mortal woman to the great Lord, who is this God, imagined by thy night, contemptuously creating worlds disdain, who made the vanity the brilliant star, not he who has reared his temple in my soul, and made his sacred floor my human heart. My God is will and triumphs in his power. My God is love and sweetest of his all. Love's golden wings have power to fan thy void. The eyes of love gaze star-like through death's night. The feet of love tread naked hardest world.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.